All right, Todd Brooks, we're back with you, Ford Motor Company. Wanted to give a little bit of an FAQ slash troubleshooting overview. We've encountered several different issues, we've several questions, and we're going to try to attempt to address most of those things and to help you be successful in the field. So I want to foot stomp. I know in several of the videos we've talked about alignment. I'm going to say it again, alignment. It is absolutely critical that the camera and the black body alignment be maintained at all times. Go back into those settings, check the black body configuration and your position alignment to make sure that that stays in alignment. It is absolutely critical to the success of this screening operation. So with that, we're going to jump into just a little bit some of the login issues, and we'll just go through our issues that we've seen. So let's talk about login issues. So because this has been done on a local domain, there's one way to actually force the system to do that. So if you would show that, so if you do a period and then backslash, so on our Ford laptops, this will actually force the local domain, and that is how you want to actually log into this. And again, camera, lowercase, camera, password as well. All right, easy day. So now moving right along, system lockup issues. So there's a variety of things that can kind of cause a system lockup. The easiest way, unless you have a very experienced IT professional on site, we just simply recommend just disconnect the power from the camera. And it just a simple disconnect will actually pull everything back, power down the camera, and then plug it back in. Then once you have the system powered down, reboot the PC. That's really the best course of action. Just shut everything down and reboot that PC. Once the power has already been reestablished to the camera, so when the PC comes online, the camera's already got power, so there's no interruption there in the network activity. So that should cover that. We have seen some instances where we've had a frozen video stream. What we recommend is sometimes if you're in live view is the normal operating mode, if you just click off and click system configuration, sometimes and then coming back to live view will recover that video frozen video stream. Worst case, just simply if it's a no-joy situation, you can't get any live view, just follow the system lockup procedure. Basically go through that whole setup or that whole process again of powering down the camera, rebooting the PC, and letting that recycle. A couple other things that we've noted, erroneous temps, and we're going to actually do some demonstrations so you can see this. But as a site operator, you need to be aware of the normal operating temperatures that you see with your system. Take your own temperature, have a buddy that's there daily that you guys can kind of keep track of each other and know what your system consistently measures. That's probably one of the best lines of defense, to know the normal operating of your system, and communicate that with the people on site that you'll maybe sharing operation of this camera. So that'll be very helpful for you to diagnose when there's sort of erroneous situations happening. But we're gonna, a couple of things you need to be aware of. Again, make sure that nobody's coming into view of the camera with glasses on, which people with frameless glasses can actually be very difficult to note. No hats. You just don't want to do anything that will interfere with the camera getting a straight shot at the tear duct area. Make sure the people that are coming in for screening are looking at the camera dead on, and it literally only takes 1 to 2 seconds, and they're off and running. But very quickly, if you're still getting erroneous temperatures and you've kind of assessed the system's just not behaving correctly, first step, you need to go verify that the black body configuration alignment is correct. So we're going to go into that just to double check that. So go into the black body configuration, verify. We've offset this because we're going to show a demonstration, but that green crosshair should be dead center on the black body. That gives you precision temperature reference. Then you can also go into the position calibration and make sure when you see those things shifted, it's very possible that somebody bumped the black body or bumped the camera, and that's going to throw it off, and that will cause erroneous temperature readings. So let's go back into black body. Okay, as you'll note, there's a few conditions that can happen, and we're going to show you those very shortly. So we have purposely drugged that crosshair off to give the system a frame of reference that's incorrect. Now, there's a bit of a hot area. It's due to some of the pixelation. You'll notice on a close-up, you'll see some red dots, some yellow dots, but the main center of the black body is white hot. So if you happen to grab that or it gets misaligned and you get a hot segment that gets selected for the camera reference, we're going to show you what happens. So if you go to live view, I'm going to step in front of the camera and you're going to see what happens here. So you'll notice that the temperature is actually reading very hot. So my normal temperature is about 96, high 95s for skin surface temperature, but it's very hot. And what's happening is the system has a false reference. So you could experience that on site. So we're going to go into the black body. Now let's say the black body gets shifted or the crosshairs get a gross misalignment and it's on the edge of the black body, bumped off just enough. So now we're going to apply that setting. Again, we are creating this error state. So now we're going to go back to live view and I'm going to show you what happens with the temperature. You're going to get a reading that's nothing. So now you see that the overhead box that normally shows the individual's temperature skin reading has disappeared. First indication should be to go back and check your black body alignment. That's probably indicative of a positional error. So now the camera has no reference to actually get a temperature, so it's not going to give you anything. So realign that black body, target right smack dead center. The other thing that you can do in the event that you're getting some erroneous measurements, if you just adjust that crosshair a little bit, if you're getting some strange measurements, just reposition the crosshair a little bit. Sometimes it's a pixelation issue, and just reapply that setting, and then you should get temperatures that come right back into the norm. And I will step in front of the camera and demonstrate that again. So now we're right back into my normal state, my normal temperature. So one thing that's critical to note, there is a known software bug with this system. ICI originally set this up for global deployment, and it was done in degrees Celsius. And when you go to the alarm configuration, if for any reason these settings need to be changed in the future, if a new value is published and we have to go in and change this, you cannot actually change these values. They are trying to work on this bug, but it may not be resolved immediately. They're so swamped with backlog that this may not get fixed in a timely manner. So to do any changes here, you got to select advanced configuration again, and you'll see the selection here for your temperature units. Select Celsius, hit apply. Now go back into the alarming configuration after you've hit apply. And now you can select the 36, if there's any changes, again, leave this at 36.5. That's the equivalent of 97.7 degrees. And then the endpoint boxes that need to be modified, select those, 29 degrees C, 39.0 degrees C, hit apply, make sure all your settings are solid. So if there's any adjustments, it has to be done in Celsius, and then you can go back into advanced configuration and then reselect Fahrenheit for those of us in the US and apply. All right, looking good. The other thing that we need to do, since we're right here in the path configuration, again, this should be set up on the PC, but just in case you're not getting any alarming in the system, primary cause is that the actual path name is not correct. So make sure you go in and select that screening folder and give it a valid path. Should be already set up, but if it's not, that will be the primary cause. The other thing I just want to foot stomp again, very important, always hit apply when you're making changes. If you fail to do that, that change will not take. So it's important to do that. So let's talk about crossing in front of the black body. So let's go to live view. So it's important to set up the site so that the individuals being screened are not crossing between the camera and between the black body. It's important to note that this system is a passive system. There is nothing that is being transmitted out of the camera or out of the black body. The black body is simply got a surface plate that is held to a constant temperature at 37.0 degrees C that provides a constant heat source for the camera to reference. The camera's IR camera is a passive device. It just sees thermal radiation. It sees that thermal image. It's invisible to our human eyes, but the camera is looking at that just like a video camera is in the visible wavelength that we can actually see. The IR camera just sees thermal energy. So there's nothing being radiated. This is a completely passive system. But what we want to show you is what happens when someone crosses back and forth and breaks the line of sight from the IR camera to the black body. Alarming on. So it's very possible you might get a false alarm, just like what happened right there. The camera gets confused, you break the beam, you break the line of sight between the camera and the black body, and that will cause just a false alarming condition, and people might get a little bit excited if you see that, but it's more of a nuisance than anything else. The system will pretty quickly recover Periodically, you may actually hear some clicking sounds coming out of the camera head, and that is actually the system going in and just redoing calibration periodically. So it does that, you know, at a random time. I think it's every 10 to 15 seconds you may hear those sounds, but nothing to be concerned. The camera just regularly goes in and recalibrates itself. But interrupting that line of sight can cause some erroneous errors. Another thing that's important to note, you know, what data is being collected here? And the very simple, easy answer is nothing. Nothing is being collected. So when we went into the system configuration, we'll go that again. We'll go to the alarming configuration, and we have set no capture of the picture. So if for some reason local laws require us to capture that information, you can select that capture picture, and those screenshots will be deposited in that file folder that's on the desktop. But for right now, no capture, no pictures, there's no HIPAA violations, no PII, everything's just live stream, there's no video being recorded at all, so we're safe in that respect. Wanted to field a couple of questions. We're looking at the alarm configuration page. You see the high temperature alarm value of 97.7 degrees. You say, why 97.7? Our normal internal body core temperature is typically 98.6. It's a number we're all familiar with. Keep in mind that what we are doing is trying to actually capture and read people's skin surface temperature. So there is a difference between 1.4 and 2 degrees of your skin surface temperature in the tear duct area of your eye and what your actual internal body core temperature is. So it's important to note that even when we're measuring folks, you're going to see some variability from person to person. And that may be a degree, degree and a half, 2 degrees, depending on the individual. Some people just normally run cooler than others. Not everybody is always at a 98.6 either. Some people run a little bit higher, some people a little bit colder. So this alarm value has been established. This is approximately the equivalent of 99.5 that would be indicative of an internal body core temperature. Again, there's some variability around that, but what we are trying to do is catch the very onset of a low-grade fever. Not indicative of having COVID-19, but certainly one of the symptoms. Could be a symptomatic of an person fighting an infection, or just the normal flu, or really something just going on with their body chemistry. So let's go back to the live view mode. I'm going to do a demonstration just to show you how my personal temperature. So you can see 96 degrees. It does fluctuate a little bit with the system capturing. Person should view straight onto the camera, give you the best success. But you will see, again, just to reiterate, you will see variability from person to person, and that is completely normal. Make sure hats are off, glasses are off, and that'll give you the most stability in your measurement and screening process. So we're going to do a quick demonstration also, just talk about the tripod. That's another thing, just to make sure that your site setup is stable. Just a couple things to talk about on the tripod. So we went through the system setup. We talked about the actual panning lock. That was one of the important things to note. Again, I'll show that again just very quickly. Panning lock should be, this knob right here should be in the counterclockwise position for this particular tripod. Your site, any of the Ford sites will be getting this tripod Vanguard unit, great unit. So now it's locked out, so we're good there. The level, you'll notice right here that there's a bubble level on the tripod base. So make sure that your tripod is fully locked out on the detent on these legs. Make sure your friction locks are actually set. They're nice and secure, fully extended, so the tripod base is very stable and level. We already went over the spikes and the rubber mouth feet on the bottom, but the other thing to note here is that on the tripod head, you have a variety of bubble vials. The camera and the black body do not need to be perfectly level. Set up the camera as we have done in our setup to where the camera height has a slightly downward angle tilt to get a good visual on the tear duct area. The black body, you actually want to kind of just make sure that this circular opening faces the face of the camera and it has a good line of sight. That gives you the best kind of alignment. And with that, we've covered most every frequently asked question that we've encountered in troubleshooting tips. We hope your site deployment is successful, and good luck and stay safe.